But I'm just not some crazy person if you haven't heard about this before. Okay, let's see here. Look under C, just A, B, C, D. I got so many pictures. Okay, here we go. We're going to go through this. Share. Okay, so if you were wanting to study hoof anatomy and you start looking on the internet, you're going to find stuff like this. Okay, now notice this right here, central sulcus. And look where it is, down in the center of the foot. See there? Okay. Now look at this one. Here we're going to go again. Central sulcus, down in the center of the foot. Why is it that we got to look at drawings is what I want to know. You know, because that's even in the best books, they don't have a picture. They have a drawing. Okay, central sulcus of the frog. There we go. Right here. Little diamond looking thing. Here's another picture. Central sulcus of the frog. Look where the bulbs are. Back here. See how this is right down here? In the center of the frog? Here we go again. Central sulcus of the frog. In the center of the frog. Look at, I want you to see the way this is curled around here too, because this has something to do with it as well. The way this one's drawn, the way they have it curled. Here we go again. Central sulcus of the frog, way down underneath the frog here. Okay, now, here's the thing. That's a distortion. And they have made it into being a part of the anatomy. Bracy Clark said that in his interpretations and dissections that he did, he was deceived because he was deceived by the foot because what he thought was the natural foot was in truth a deformed foot. That ain't exactly how he said it. But he said it deceived him in all his first experiments. And it embarrassed him and deceived him. Well, guess what? And he said it did his predecessors as well. They were looking at deformed feet, thinking that was the way the foot was. Okay, well, this is epidemic in hoof care. They look at deformities and they have made it a part of what the anatomy is supposed to be when that isn't what the anatomy is supposed to be at all. So, like here, you see on this foal's foot, like this here, this is an undeformed inner foot. The hoof capsule and the heels on this particular horse were in pristine, pretty pristine condition, especially the heels. Now I want you to look at the place from where the frog grows. It's not pushed up here in the center of the foot. It's way at the back of the foot here. Okay, and we'll look at a foal's foot, and you see that a foal foot is the same. There's a sulcus, but it goes up behind the foot, between the bulbs, and in the back of the foot. It is not in the center of the frog. How does this wind up here? It winds up here when you trim the heels out because it pulls the whole back of the foot down and it shoves the whole frog corium forward. And that is what makes what looks like a central sulcus, but it is a distortion from either incorrect wear, over wearing of the heels, or over trimming of the heels. And again, we have this wonderful wild example that shows you that the horse basically grows his own shoe when everything is right. See? So you don't see him looking like this very often. Now, you can have a foot that is like this, but the walls are just a little longer and the sole has attached to the walls, and it can make it look concave when in reality there is a convex ridge of sole here. And so that was another thing that they were wrong about the anatomy on, was the fact that these feet grow, they're not just concave. They grow a convex rim of sole all around the perimeter of the foot. But sometimes, a lot of times, the very lip of the sole attaches to the wall, since it, well, it is attached to the wall. Since it's attached to the wall that is continually growing, it kind of pulls that sole down and it hides the fact that there is a convex, thick ridge of sole that is at least an inch wide around the perimeter of this foot. It is not concave. It does not get concave till it gets about to here, right underneath the coffin bone. Okay, so what a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful example that is. Okay, so I want to look at a couple more wild feet so that you can see where the frog is really supposed to be. Let's see here. I'm gonna start that and go to wild feet. So just a second here. Okay, well, we can, well, maybe I don't want to look at that one. Now, here, just a minute. Share. Okay, so, so what we have found, so Angeliki knew a guy named George Malakos over in Greece, and he acquired a young mare, a filly, that had torn half her coffin bone off on a rear foot. They were able to regrow the capsule, and that horse runs and is sound because of the development of the caudal foot back here. Because she still had, what we learned was you can help these horses that have worn down their coffin bones if you can develop and get the back of the foot right and get the heel apparatus growing correctly in the back of the foot. That is how vital and important the whole back of the foot is. And so we need to have a clear and precise understanding of the whole apparatus of the back of this foot. Now, the central sulcus that we were just talking about, this is where it's supposed to be, not shoved down here in the front of the foot, but that frog is supposed to be extending clear into the back of the foot. And the periopal band, you usually see these big bulbs, it's not supposed to be any wider than your finger. And that frog extends like, and I'm seeing this come to pass on my horses. The bulbs unwrap and uncurl and pull this whole frog back. So, okay, so here's our wild horse examples. And like this horse here, I think all of these horses, I don't know about this one, but all of these horses here are, I think, well, this one I know for sure is at the Salt River in Arizona, where the horses spend half the day in the water and half the day in the desert. And they have the most tremendous feet. Now I'm going to annotate on this to show you the heel apparatus and proportions that they have. So the heel on this horse, just a minute here, let's do red. This is the hairline up here. And that heel goes all the way down to there. This would be like the coronary band up here. And this here is heel buttress wall. It is at least a minimum of 2 inches, that's a minimum of 2 inches from here to here. Here's where his heel goes. Just a minute here. Here's the heel. right there. Now, I showed you on that other foot how with the hoof capsule off of the frog corium, you can see where, let me do pink, where that goes way up like that, and then it goes under the foot like that. See, so this part here is vertical behind the foot, and this is under the foot. And then there's this big chunk of frog that grows in there called the frog stay. So this frog, uh, from here, from up here, high between the bulbs, that'd be right up here, down to here is about 2 inches. This, from the hairline to the end of this horse's heel, is about 2 inches. This part of the frog that is in the back of the foot, right here, you can see in the back of the foot, the bulbs will be clear off the ground. The coronary band will not be any wider than this. The bulb skin is not any wider than that. And what you see like on a horse like this, like his bulbs are up here and the coronary band, okay? And then he's got frog attached to the heel growing all the way down. So the frog is attached, growing right in here, and it attaches to the heel here. And what happens is people mistake when the heels are trimmed out, what happens is when the foot tries to stand back up, that this periopal skin stretches like that, and you get these big wide periopal bulbs, and you only have a little bit of heel, just a little bit of heel buttress. Well, it's not supposed to be that way. The true foot of the horse, the coronary band and the periopal and what they call the bulb is only about that wide. And the frog, okay, the frog is right next to the heel here, growing all the way down, about 1 3/4 right here, about 1 3/4 inches depth of frog in the back of the foot. Now there's about 2 inches here because this little piece here is higher. Your frog is shaped like this in the back. That's if the foot was standing on the ground, we would see this frog in the back of the foot here. And so we will, well, heck, I messed that up because that frog goes clear over to here. See there? Anyway, so this part we see is vertical in the back of the foot. And then underneath the foot, we would see this part of the frog here. And so the frog stay is half vertical and half horizontal and fills up this whole area here, up behind the foot and underneath. And it's called the frog stay. Like the person that named that was Bracy Clark, 1800s vet that did massive research on the foot of the horse. And he named the periopal band. He also named the frog stay. Nobody had ever seen it, knew what it was before him. At first, he called it the bolt, the frog bolt. Then why is that? Because wherever it is where the back of that foot is going to stay. Now, this is something you have to remember when you're correcting these feet. That when you get hoof distortion, I just showed you capsules that came off dead horses. Those capsules are meant to support and stabilize these feet. The back 2/3 of the foot is soft cartilage and fat, and it only retains its shape and true form and function by having the correct hoof capsule growing from its true shape and form. So when the heels get overworn, or when you trim them to mimic wear, then it starts to pull down that inner foot and it changes the shape, the form, the position of the internal foot that grows this capsule. And then, because it's growing the capsule, it grows that frog and the heels and the bars from a different position. And then, because it grows it from a different position, and because the capsule is the only thing that maintains the true form, then the capsule then also binds it and holds it in a deformed and distorted position. And so the more growth you have, the more dead growth, the more odd growth, periopal thickness, blah, blah, blah. Well, that foot's going nowhere. That's what that horse will have when he dies. Now, this capsule was meant to grow on and exfoliate and grow off, to constantly be renewed, renewed, renewed. And so horses will naturally, given the weather, time of year, um, wear their feet different if they're out in nature. Okay. In the winter, like in where I'm from, originally in Wyoming, Montana, okay, in the winter, it's very dry there. We don't have wet snows. Horses in the wild have to travel a long ways to get every bite of grass, things like that. And they wear their heels down and their toes down, and they can wind up with a very small foot. In the spring, when the moisture comes back and more food comes out, they're traveling less, their feet grow more, and then they begin a process of self-trimming. Their quarters will break out, which will allow their foot to stretch. Their toe will grow a little longer. We'll put leverage on the front of the foot so that it can pull the back of his foot back up where it's supposed to be and grow some heel back. And they will restore their foot as close as possible to what it's supposed to be when they self-trim. So what we're doing here is getting an understanding of all these different things so that we can look at our horse's feet and see how close they are to what they really are supposed to have. We're not trying to give them something they're not supposed to have. Um, we're just trying to follow what we so far understand they already truly have internally, and if at all possible, would be the best for them. See,